ब्रह्मणस्पत आनः शृण्वन्नोतिभिः सीदसादनम् प्रणो देवी सरस्वती वाजेभिर्वाजिनीवती धीनामवित्र्यवतु गणेशाय नमः सरस्वत्यै नमः श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ओम् यश्छन्दसां वृषभो विश्वरूपः छन्दोभ्योऽध्यमृतात् सम्बभूव समेन्द्रो मेधया स्पृणोतु अमृतस्य देवधारणो भूयासम् शरीरं मे विचर्षणम् जिह्वा मे मधुमत्तमा कर्णाभ्यां भूरिविश्रुवम् ब्रह्मणः कोशोऽसि मेधया पिहितः श्रुतं मे गोपाय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः मेधा देवी जुषमाणा न आगाद्विश्वाची भद्रा सुमनस्य माना त्वया जुष्टानुगमाना दुरुक्तान् बृहद्वदेम विदथे सुवीरा आहा त्वया जुष्ट ऋषिर्भवति देवी त्वया ब्रह्मा गतः श्रीरुतत्वया त्वया जुष्टश्चित्रं विन्दते वसुसानो जुषस्वत्र विनो न मेधे मेधां महीन्द्रो ददातु मेधां देवी सरस्वती मेधां मे अश्विना वुभावा धत्तां पुष्करस्रजा अप्सरासु च या मेधा गन्धर्वेषु च यन्मनः दैवीं मेधा सरस्वती सा मां मेधा सुरभिर्जुषत स्वाहा आमा मेधा सुरभिर्विश्वरूपा हिरण्यवर्णा जगति जगम्या ऊर्जस्वती पयसा बिन्वमाना सा मां मेधा सुप्रतीका जुषन्ताम् मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मय्यग्निस्तेजो दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयीन्द्र इन्द्रियं दधातु मयि मेधां मयि प्रजां मयि सूर्यो भ्राजो दधातु हंस हंसाय विद्महे परमहंसाय धीमहि तन्नो हंसः प्रचोदयात् ॐ साईश्वराय विद्महे सत्यदेवाय धीमहि तन्नः सर्वः प्रचोदयात् स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्ताम् न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम् समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः।
On behalf of all the enthusiastic seekers of Vedic knowledge in the form of dedicated resource persons, sincere Vedic learners, and all brothers and sisters who are verily the integral part of Sri Sathya Sai Samyukta Shruti Shreni of Sri Sathya Sai Seva organization, I offer our loving pranams at the lotus feet of our dear Lord Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. I'm indeed highly privileged to welcome you all for this fourth episode of Gama Agama lecture series. Today, we have with us Brother Professor Dr. Gnana Bhaskar, a pious, humble, devout, and a blessed soul who has exemplified himself as an ideal Sai student, as an ideal Sai Sevak, to address us on the topic, the Vedas, the foundation of Indian culture and spirituality, part 4. Few words about Professor Gnana Bhaskar. Professor Dr. Gnana Bhaskar, alumnus of Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, joined Sri Sathya Sai Junior College in 1980 and graduated with a PhD degree in mathematics in 1990. At Bhagawan Baba's command, he served as a faculty member at the mathematics department during 1990 and 92. Prior to moving to United States, he was a faculty member at the Department of Mathematics, Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi, IIT Delhi, for 8 years. Currently, he is a professor of mathematics in the Division of Mathematical Sciences, Florida Institute of Technology, Melbourne, Florida, USA. He will address us today on the topic, the Vedas, the foundation of Indian culture and spirituality, as a fourth episode. Over to Professor Dr. Gnana Bhaskar. Sai Ram.
श्रुतं मे गोपाय
Om Shri Sai Ram. My most prayerful salutations at the divine lotus feet of Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. I consider it a great privilege and a blessing to be part of this satsang under the auspices of Sri Sathya Sai Samyukta Shruti Shreni. The organizers of these events and the office bearers of this organization, which is promoting the learning of Vedas across the entire country and trying to spread Swami's message of living life based on Vedic Dharma, alternatively called Sanatana Dharma. Before we get to talk about the main theme, I would like to offer my heartfelt gratitude to my dear brother Ratish Kumar, and it gives me a lot of joy to be part of the same event. Special joy because we both started out as students of Veda way back in the 1980 when we first started learning the basic Vedic chants. If I am correct, we started out by learning with Mantra Pushpam. And I have to mention our Guru Sri Shivashankar Sai's name, who was the one who taught us all the Vedic chants that we ourselves have eventually started teaching others, and we continue to cherish the times we spent learning these Vedic chants from our Guru. It is only fitting that Sri Shivashankar Sai spoke first and then I am speaking to share my understanding. I am sure Bhagawan has his way of getting his message across. So I offer on this occasion actually my sincere and heartfelt gratitude to my Guru, my Veda Guru, Sri Shivashankar Sai. And of course, I have to also thank Sri Subramaniam Gorti for even thinking of asking me to be part of this series. Except that we learned these chants at Puttaparthi with the sole intention of getting close to Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, because even though we were exposed to the usual Vedic rituals, etc., like in the form of daily worship, etc., at our homes, the desire to learn Vedic chants was prompted by this desire to be closer to Bhagawan, because we used to see that we used to look for opportunities to be close to Bhagawan, and then several people who had different types of talents had their means to reach to him, and not having any other talent, I had to do something, and I'm pretty sure it is true with many of us who started out learning these chants at that time. I cannot claim that as students at 15 years of age, we knew all the importance of Veda, we knew all the glory of Veda, nothing like that. It started out with a simple desire to be close to Bhagawan. Because if we learn these Vedic chants, then we used to get an opportunity to chant this in front of Bhagawan every time Bhagawan visits the college or visits the hostel, or if he is having an event at Prashantinilayam ashram. The first ones to have access to Bhagawan will be these Vedic chant students of this Veda chants. So we get an opportunity to be there, we get an opportunity to take his Pada Namaskar. This was the sole reason why we learnt these Vedic chants. My point is that and then you see, this is how we started. This was our motivation. There are many others who are born into families which pursue Vedic chants as their profession. There are many others who take to this Vedic learning for various reasons, out of intellectual curiosity. It could be, isn't it? So the reason, I can only share my reasons and my perspectives on this. So our reason was what? To get close to Bhagavan somehow and get an opportunity to be recognized and be in the eyes of God. Whoever we were revering as God, that was the reason. Did it get us close to him? Absolutely. At the beginning, in the first few years, when we were the very few students, we used to get every opportunity to be there with him in his presence, get a namaskar, get a reward. But that was our singular blessing, in that we were in Prashantinilayam. We were actually there in that spiritually charged atmosphere, that our days started with these kind of activities. And it would not be an exaggeration to say that pretty much our days permeated with these kind of activities. So why am I saying this? My reason is that, see, even though I did not know the true glory or the true depth and true purpose of these Vedas, our intention was getting close to God. And much later, today, I realized that, in fact, that is the sole purpose of Veda itself. What is the sole purpose of Veda? In fact, that is the topic I'm going to focus a little bit in our discussions today. What is the purpose of Veda, if you ask? It is to make us, get us close to God. Which is another way of saying that it is to realize our true innate divinity. Right? So, and that was the intent, and it was fulfilled. By simply learning to chant what? Some basic, very common, simple chants like Mantra Pushpam, Purusha Suktam, Narayana Suktam, Durga Suktam. These are all the basic chants from Taittiriya Upanishad. And just because we learnt it formally from a guru, who I mentioned already, that's it. We were rewarded with this proximity to God. Right? Imagine, and then of course that was reward, and then we learned through his discourses, etc., Bhagawan's discourses, etc., the true purpose and the true meaning of these Vedas. And we heard countless number of discourses from Bhagawan on how it is that the foundation of life in India, or those born into Sanatana Dharma, are the Vedas. Right? So this was our introduction to this Vedic chants, etc. But Veda and prior to me, in the previous speakers, who are all very learned and scholars have spoken about the various aspects of Veda and the contents of Veda and what do they talk about, and a lot of details and information, extraordinary amount of information was shared by speakers ahead of me. What am I going to do today? I am just going to share my understanding, my perspective in its own, with all its limitations, as to what exactly has it done, has it come to mean to me. That is what I am going to talk about, because all the information about that the Vedas contain, Karma Kanda, Gnana Kanda, Upasana Kanda, all the details have been talked about, and the 6 Vedangas have been talked about. The structure has been talked about, and we all agree, therefore, that this body of knowledge that we are calling as Vedas, and everybody knows across the world, everybody knows that one of the earliest literatures that is available to humanity is from the Vedic knowledge, is the Vedic knowledge, right? But then it is not a matter of literature. The way others will view it, it may be a literary thing, but that's not how it was. It is to be viewed by us who are from India, who are born in India. So we understand the Vedas form the foundation of life for people who are born into Sanatana Dharma. But then, before I misunderstood, let me say that while it is natural and intrinsic to life for people born into this Sanatana Dharma and people who are from India, the Vedic injunctions, the Vedic knowledge is not limited to Indians or Hindus alone. It is the universal knowledge. It is the knowledge about the entire creation. So and it expounds this universal thought of oneness of all humanity. Oneness of all humanity. Vasudhaika Kutumbakam, the entire, all human population. Why human? All beings are one. This universal thought is propagated in the Vedas. So to look upon that as simply a literary body would be to do a very limited service to the Vedas. But then this is such a difficult topic that we do not expect everybody to have the same amount of interest in such topics, right? So somebody looks at it as a literary thing, somebody else looks at it as some ritual and things like that. But then, what are then these Vedic mantras and the Vedic knowledge? The information that is embodied in the Vedas it is not to be read as sentences, right? We don't say Vedic sentence. We talk about them as Vedic mantras. Well, the sentence, they convey, have a meaning, they convey a certain sense, a meaning, etc. But they are not Vedic sentences, they are Vedic mantras. And speakers have spoken earlier about the importance of a mantra. So a mantra creates a certain vibration. A mantra is not just to convey a certain meaning. A mantra is to create a certain energy, a certain aura, both inside and outside. So when a mantra is chanted according to the stipulated process, according to stipulated manner, it does its job just as much as a medicine that I would take for a certain, say, headache or some disease that I might have will do its job independent of whether I believe in that medicine or not. It's not a matter of faith for me there. So for example, here in the United States for headache, we take a very common pill, Tylenol, right? In India, we have Saridon and aspirin and things like that, probably. So, so do I need to have faith in Tylenol in order for Tylenol to cure my headache, or will Tylenol cure my headache once I take it? So it's not just a matter of faith that, oh, something will cure my headache, right? So in the same manner, these mantras are embedded, these Vedic mantras are embedded with this huge spiritual energy in such a way that when these mantras are chanted in accordance with the stipulated rules, they will result in certain benefits to the person who is chanting these mantras. So what are these mantras? Already we know that these are the universal truths that have been realized in the deepest states of elevated states of consciousness in the hearts of the Vedic seers. So whom we call as sages, right? They are actually spiritual scientists. So while large part of humanity was engaged in eking out a living, there were these stalwarts who focused their attention on the most fundamental of questions of human existence on earth. Why are we here? What is the purpose for me to be born as a human being? Is this some random occurrence that this whole universe, this earth, the sun, moon, and all the solar systems and all this Milky Way, etc., all come into existence, and we are all born in this earth, and we all live, and we do something, and then we go away? Is this all by a mere chance, or is there a purpose behind it? So what is the purpose of human life? Why am I here? These are the fundamental questions that these Vedic seers have asked and dedicated their life to discover the answers to this. Because asking a question is easy. Anybody can ask a question. Why should I do this? What is this? What is that? Anybody can ask a question. Only a few people will have the ability to ask the good questions, the right kind of questions. Because some very casual questions anybody can ask. It doesn't take great effort, great intelligence, great interest. To ask a good question requires a certain thought, a certain seriousness, a certain intent of knowing, and a seriousness of purpose. So asking a good question. Now, that alone is not enough. One can ask a question and not have the patience or the ability to discover the answers, to the desire to find the answers, right? So that means among those who ask these good questions, there are very few who will go on to find answers to those questions. They don't have to be discoverers themselves. Maybe somebody else has already found the answer, and I can go and learn at the feet of such a person. So very few among those who ask the good questions will go on to actually try to find the answers. Among those who try to go on to find the answers, very few will actually spend time knowing the answers. And that, why am I saying this? That is to say that of all these sages and gurus that we hear about who propagated this Vedic knowledge, they did so because of a very deep, innate desire to find answers to questions that are pertinent to all of us. Imagine the amount of respect a person gets in this world if somebody were to dedicate their lives to discovery of a medicine, something like penicillin, or something like an antibiotic, which we know the story of all these scientific discoveries, right? And if there is a scientist who does something that benefits a large segment of people, then we reward them with the Nobel Prize and all kinds of awards and recognitions and things like that. And what awards and recognitions have these sages and seers of India have asked for themselves? Nothing, except that they were only prompted by the desire to discover the truth, and discover they did, not with a small effort, by dedicating their entire life pursuit in the discovery of this. And having discovered it, having gotten it, what did they do? Did they patent all that knowledge? Did they say, oh, hereafter this one will be, everyone who chants this mantra should be paying some money to this person or some trust? No. Whatever knowledge they discovered in their which is born out of the most sincere lifelong effort, they just spread it and shared it with the rest of the humanity for their benefit. Therefore, if we were to value somebody, then we have to really regard and place these sages and saints of India in the highest pedestal, because they were the most selfless of the seekers of truth of any knowledge base, for that matter. We are talking today about the Vedas. My intent in mentioning this also, and also for invoking my own Guru's name, Shiva Shankar Sai's name, is that is this tradition of this Veda. This knowledge is passed on from person to person, generation to generation, through this scheme of this Guru Sishya Parampara, the lineage of Gurus and disciples. So these great sages of India, starting from, all their names are throughout in the Vedic texts. We can find them. I'm not even going to talk about any information about how many Vedas there are. Everybody knows that. So I'm not going to talk about that. I'm only going to share my perspective on this whole body of knowledge that is available to the humanity, free of cost. Nobody can ever say, look, this mantra is I am patenting. Anybody who chants this mantra must be paying this much royalty to so and so or some society. No. This is a free body of knowledge that is made available, or a knowledge that is born out of a lifetime of effort. So what lies at the root of this discovery of knowledge? Number one, the sincere and earnest desire to discover the truth and meaning behind this human life. That's the source, first reason. Number two, they could have discovered it and kept it for themselves. What did they do? Well, having discovered it, they came out and proclaimed it to all of others. See, my friends and my brothers, Shrunvanta Visve Amritasya Putraha, Vedaham Etam Purusham Mahantam, Adityavarnam Tamasastu Pare. This is how they talked about the glory and the truth of the truth that they discovered. Shrunvanta Visve Amritasya Putraha. This is how Veda addresses us. It does not address humanity as sinners, as somebody who are mortals. It calls, what is the name that it assigns to us? Amritasya Putraha. You are the children of immortality, is what Vedas addresses. That is the identity that they have discovered for all of us. This is the vision of the Vedic seer. He or she doesn't look upon us as, okay, this is a man, this is a woman, this is a low-born, this is a high-born. Because when we talk about Indian culture, there is so much of misunderstanding across the world about Indian culture. And they will talk, when we talk about Indian culture, the first thing that comes up in the minds of people is the caste. As if a Sanatana Dharma, a culture that is based on Vedic knowledge, which proclaims that the entire universe is Isha Vasyam Idam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagat. Everything that is moving and unmoving, everything is permeated by Ishvara, is the Upanishadic statement of Ishavasya Upanishad. So somebody who is a descendant of such a universal thought that everything in the world is permeated, everything in this universe is permeated by God. Now, will that same the Sanatana Dharma or Hindu religion, will it also place this kind of rankings and discrimination against one another? Is it possible? So this is a misunderstanding, but that is not to deny what exists as a social evil in the society. My point here is that aberrations may have come upon because of thousands of years of passage of time, but that's not our true heritage. So when we talk about Hinduism or Sanatana Dharma, because we are talking about Vedas as the foundation for Indian culture and spirituality. What is Indian culture? This is Indian culture. The culture that says that, look, in everything that you see around you, there is God. That is the root of this Vedic message. Shanno astu dvipade, sham chatushpade. So I realize that everything is, if it is that we accept, forget about realization part. If I even just accept these Vedic injunctions as merely just statements, somebody discovered this, right? Somebody discovered this truth that everything in this universe is permeated by the universe. Do I see this universe as permeated by the universe? No, I don't. But that is a matter of my inability to see it. But there was somebody who with a certain life, certain practices, certain experiments, if you want to call it, because that is how all these molecular biologists, what do I see everything that is molecular? No. But I accept the theories proposed by a molecular biologist. I use the medicines that are created by somebody who understands chemistry very deeply. So it is not that everything that I do in my life is I do it only if I know it, only if I discover it. That's not true. We accept the results of so many others. So also, I will accept the statements of these Vedic seers and sages. Not because I have no ability to use my own brain and think logically. We all have to varying capacities. But here is the highest ideal that was placed in front of me by somebody, the most selfless people who dedicated their lives to the discovery of these universal truths, and then come up and tell me that Isha Vasyamidam Sarvam Yatkincha Jagatyam Jagatte. Everything in this universe is permeated by God. Yes, I will believe it. Somebody has asked me, you are a scientist, you are a professor of mathematics. How is that you can believe in God? I would say, because I am a scientist, I would believe in God. Because it is incomprehensible that such an organized system such as the universe with all these laws and these principles has just come into existence with nobody and no intelligence behind it, no force, no power behind it. And I place my faith and my acceptance in these truths that have been proclaimed by these sages. But I don't stop there probably. And they don't want us to stop there either. The Vedic seers, having said it, that this entire universe is permeated by God, they did not say that only because I have conducted this experiment, I can only realize this kind of truth. They said, look, anybody else can also realize this truth. So it is not just the experience of some self-realized soul in some 10,000 years ago or thousands of years ago. Today, if we were to spend our lives, live our lives in accordance with the Vedic injunctions, this universal cosmic truth and reality of oneness of there is one God that permeates this universe, it can be realized by you and me. That is what is the intent. So, but then a question will arise. So, because we are now talking about what? Vedas as the foundation of Indian culture and spirituality. So somebody can say, look, sir, okay, all this now talk about God and all this realization, God, etc. All this is fine. Thank you very much. I am not interested at this point. So should I then be bothered about the Vedas and the knowledge thereof? Because it's a matter of, see, I take to mathematics because I am interested in mathematics. So I cannot say everybody on the street, please come and learn mathematics. They will probably beat me up if I ask them to do that. Because their interest, that's not their cup of tea. So why should everybody be interested in this? Because it is the foundation and the foundational principles that lie and that are at the heart of all of our Indian culture. And to anybody who is willing to accept and understand this knowledge, free. So this Guru Parampara from one person to another, it's an amazing thing. One of the oldest body of knowledge transferred from generation to generation, and probably all these modern means of recording information was not present. So it is called Shruti, as you know already, because it was transmitted from one person to person. What a marvelous thing it is. If anybody were to ponder and think, just the fact that today we are sitting and talking about Vedas is a miraculous thing. But it is not so much of a miracle because behind this sustenance of this Vedic knowledge lies thousands and thousands of people's dedication to this knowledge, propagation of this knowledge, and realization of this knowledge in their lives. Why would you do it? Merely because you are religious? Merely because you are some very highly evolved spiritual soul? Or is it because this knowledge that is founded in these Vedas is of utmost importance and relevance to human life? Because if it is not of relevance to me today as a human being, I would not spend time on it. That would be the attitude of any ordinary person in the street. Right? You go to somebody, tell them, my friend, brother, please learn Vedas. Why? What do you think that person will say? Why should I learn Vedas? What has it to do with me? I am very busy making money. And having made money, I am very busy enjoying the money. Right? So why should I? Will be the question. We should, because if there is a body of knowledge that is of utmost relevance to humans today, as it was thousands of years ago, and it will be tomorrow and from 1,000 years hence, it is this body of knowledge. Right? Now if you say, look sir, you are telling all these things, how can we be convinced of it? All we have to do is to look at this whole, not even the whole is even, there's so much of, because we have heard about it, right? Ananto vai Vedaha. These Vedas are supposed to be infinite. The moment you make the statement, even as a mathematics person will say, how can it be infinite? Unending. Infinite means what? It's not a number anyway. So unending. And then on top of it we say Vedas are apaurushayas. They are not created by anybody. And that is another thing that people will say, how can it be apaurushaya if nobody has created it? Our speakers before have talked about it. These Vedic principles, as in the principles underlying this creation, existed all along. These seers discovered in their hearts, in their deepest meditations, which they realized in the form of these auditory vibrations, and therefore they pronounced these in the form of these Vedic mantras and injunctions. In sync with the frequency or the level at which they were in those consciousness, highly evolved consciousness. So when I chant a particular chant today, I am also trying to raise my level of consciousness to that consciousness level. But then, is it that simple? There are two things here. One, I want to say first of all that, is this only for those who are seeking spiritual enlightenment, or is this Vedic knowledge for everybody? Well, this Vedic knowledge was while it was as universal in thought, etc., it was also acutely, meaning this body of knowledge that was propagated to us by these various sages, was also acutely conscious of what a human being is constituted of, the composition of a human being. What are the physical needs of a human being? What are the mental needs of a human being? And what are the spiritual needs of a human being? They were aware of it. So it was not as if all these sages and seers said, oh, renounce yourselves, all of you please become monks, don't marry, don't enjoy anything in this world, just to go to a forest and do penance. Is that what the Vedic sages have said? No, far from it. They discovered this in that process. But in the process, therefore, they discovered, because they discovered the true purpose of a human life on this earth, they also discovered what are the means to achieve that. Not by one person here, one person there who is dedicated to that pursuit, but by everyone in the society. Everyone in the society. And therefore what? They laid out a lifestyle. Because we are talking about culture. They laid out a lifestyle, how to live a life in order for us to achieve the true purpose of this one. So when you are a child of 10 years or 15 years, they are not going to tell you become a monk and chant all these Vedic chants and only do that. They are talking about human life as a complete, from a holistic perspective. So Veda does not say everybody should become monk. So what does it want? It says as you are living this human life, you need to live happily. You need to have your life lived in a particular manner. So that the Vedas talk about the ashramas, right? Brahmacharya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and then sannyasa. So they laid out a very slowly evolving ladder of success to this life. So success today is what? As propagated by the modern educational system, success today is what? Whatever you do, if you make the most money, then you are the most successful person. Or whatever you do, if you are in the most powerful position, as in terms of societal status, etc., power-wise, let's say you are a minister, or you are some politician, you are a president, or you may be the boss of whatever you are, organization, then that is considered success. You are considered successful if you have the best possessions. If I have the best TV in the world, best car of the world, then I am successful. That is how success is defined by modern education system. That is mostly permeated in our society today. Because unfortunately, we have come far from this vision of a Vedic sage. I am talking of the large segment of society, not those who are members of this audience. But a large society thinks success means that. What is the Vedic seer's vision of human success in human life? If you ask that question, Vedas say, Chaturvidha Purusharthas. There are 4 Purusharthas. There are 4 things that a human being must strive to have in their life to be called, to be said that a person has lived a successful life. Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha are the 4. Dharma is, I wouldn't translate it. Everybody here understands the word dharma, so I wouldn't translate it. If you want to, you can say that is the code of conduct that is appropriate for a person to live by. But that code of conduct has a goal at the end, moksha. So this dharma is not just, okay, here is see, many times in our society we make our rules just so that our life is comfortable, right? In India we drive on the left and other things. So why those rules? Those rules are there so that things don't go haywire and everybody lives comfortably. But this dharma, the code of conduct, is not just given for that. It is with the intent of eventually achieving moksha. So when Vedas talk about dharma or whatever dharmic injunctions that they propagate, they are not talking about just randomly, just so that you can be happy for today, or you will not quarrel with each other. They are not talking with that limited sense. Let us understand that these Vedic injunctions are coming from a seer who has had this broad vision of oneness of one consciousness permeating this entire universe. From somebody like that, if somebody says, please do this, their word carries a lot more depth and lot more meaning, and when they say do this, live like this, then that has an ultimate goal of moksha. Somebody may say, I don't want moksha at this point, I'm not interested, I don't even know what this is. Doesn't matter, just live your life like this, and whatever you are expecting in this life will be achieved by this process. Kama and Dharma, Artha and Kama. So they talked about in between, artha and kama. Artha is loosely translated may call as wealth, but it's not just wealth in terms of money. So whatever I need at a point of time is my artha. So artha, and then I'm also somebody who comes with a lot of desires in me. So there is a kama, a desire for many things. Desire for recognition, desire for status, desire for this, desire for that. So, but these two things, making enough to live a comfortable life, artha, kama, to satisfy certain desires, we have been padded on both sides by dharma and moksha. So, in fact, Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba has said that your kama should be for moksha, your artha should be for dharma. Why do you want to be wealthy? So that you can live a dharmic life as ordained. Wealthy meaning comfortable enough, not to keep on making money. That's not the sole purpose. So dharma, kama should be, artha should be for sake of living a dharmic life. Kama should be for eventually getting moksha. But in the process, a whole lifetime, of course, a person goes through all these 4 stages of life, etc. So, who is a successful person according to a Vedic seer's mind? Someone who has balanced all these 4 is a successful person, who has lived according to dharma that has been laid out. Because if we understand the basic thing, then which dharma I will follow, that's a secondary thing. Whether I choose to follow or not is a secondary thing. But first I understand that I have to have some dharma that I must follow. And I have, of course, to make some money so that I can live my life. And then they fulfill certain desires, and then eventually attain moksha. This is the vision of this one. So there, that said, what is constituted in the Vedas? So someone will say, oh, there is a karma kanda, whole lot of karma kanda, there is how to perform yagas, how to perform yajnas, how to do this, how to do that. Extraordinarily elaborate detail. How to build a sacrificial thing, what should be the dimensions, what material should be used, how those materials should be procured. This is part of Veda. Does it have anything to do with the realization of God? If somebody thinks that it doesn't, then nothing can be further from truth. Because this compartmentalization is not the attitude of a Vedic seer. Vedic seer sees human life as one entity. It's a in fact, when the Vedic sage looks at a human life, he or she, there are many female Vedic sages too. They are not looking at it as an existence on this earth with one occurrence. So then what are they looking at? They are looking at the jiva, an evolution of a jiva through several lifetimes. So fundamental injunction of the Vedas is that there is this God. That is the most fundamental. See, we have to accept some basic postulates in order to build any body of knowledge. Right? For mathematics students, I don't have to tell, it's easy to understand. If you are looking at a particular, any study you can do, any calculus student will understand this. You have to have coordinate axis, and starting at an origin, then there are coordinate axes. Then you can talk about representation of points in that space. Then you can talk about functions and all their properties and all the mathematics you can develop. But what are the most fundamental things? You have to fix your origin. If we don't fix our origin, you cannot talk about coordinates of a point. Because you move your origin, I hope I am not getting too mathematical, but if you move your origin someplace else, the coordinates will change. So also you have to fix your axis. Oh, this is my x-axis, this is my y-axis, this is my z-axis. If you don't fix your axis, then whatever statement we make can be changed. So the mathematical framework requires that you fix your origin, fix your coordinate axis, then you can evolve any system that you want. Is it possible to have origin at different places? Is it possible to have any different axis? Well, any advanced mathematics student knows that that is possible. So in the same manner, there is an origin for this Vedic body of knowledge. And that origin is that there is God. And that God is not separate from this universe. Because you see, this is the issue that everybody fights about, isn't it? Because my God is different from your God. My God is better than your God. Kind of things that people spend their life on. Whereas somebody comes up and says this entire universe is permeated by this one single entity you may call as God. What name is not the point. So this is not a God that is sitting in some far off heaven, waiting for his all the followers of his religion to come up and then say, you know what, we did our part to your name. No. This God is an all-permeating God. This God is intrinsically one with his creation. He is not different from his creation. Look at the vision of this Vedic sage. So that is the origin. Fix it first. We are talking about a God that is the source of this creation, that continues to be with the creation, that will be there long after this creation is gone. That is a permanent entity. Ekam Sat. Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma. These are the Vedic injunctions. Fixing that origin first. Number two, you have to fix your coordinate axis. So what are those coordinate axes? If you ask, that we as individual Jiva, I'm not going to do too much of discussion on that, but I just want to point out that this kind of fixing the coordinates and axis and fixing the origin are important. So what is the next fundamental injunction of this Vedic knowledge? It talks about us being on this earth in not once but several times. Though the reincarnation, that we are not just born once, because if I am just born once, then you say I can do whatever I want, I can live as happy, because there are people who propagate such theories. You live only once, live like a king, you enjoy all that you want. This is the kind of thing that appeals to us, because that will not bring any responsibility onto me. Whereas if I am told, look, you are not here only once, that your actions have consequences, karmic consequences, that you alone are responsible and you alone have to bear with. These are all the coordinate axes we are talking about now. So we have to be mindful of our actions, because I am the one who will be reaping the results of my actions, nobody else. So when somebody comes up and says that you alone are responsible for your actions, should I be mindful of my actions or not? Because they have consequences. So when the Vedic sage comes and says, live your life in accordance with this dharma, that dharmic life that has been ordained by the Vedic sages is most in tune with realizing the true purpose of our lives as to why we are here. We can digress, we can live in which way we want, and then keep on coming back in this cycle of life and death, life and death. Haven't all the gurus, how many gurus we have from the Vedic times onwards? Sri Adi Shankara has said, Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, Punarapi Janani Jathare Shayanam. Not once, but is Sri Adi Shankara telling for the first time? No. Any knowledge that these Vedic different seers come all the way down to my own guru, whatever they have said, they were only repeating what their gurus have said. So if Sri Adi Shankara says Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam, it is Vedic knowledge. Do I know? Because people can argue for all these things. How do I know I am going to be born? How do I know that what happens after a death? Well, we don't know. With this kind of awareness, we won't know. But a Vedic seer has said what will happen to a jivi after the jivi leaves the body. What was the state of the jivi before the birth of a jivi? We have to learn. If you care, you have to learn. So the Vedic seer's vision is much more broader spectrum. So when he says or she says, Vedic seers say, don't do this, do these things. live your life like this. They are not talking about short-term gains alone. And notice that I said not short-term gains alone, because they are talking long-term, but that is not to say that they ignored the short-term. So there you will find, oh, you have this difficulty in life, perform this ritual and get this thing done, your difficulty will be gone. So we should not also see that one extreme is to ignore everything. The other extreme is to say, well, in the Upanishads, it is said that that the God is everywhere, God is everything. I am Atma Brahma, I am the Atman, I am the Brahman. So I just like my Upanishadic injunctions, I take, then therefore I don't have to do anything. But well, that is bookish knowledge. If you just take the sentence or chants that you have heard, and that mistake is made by everybody, including me. If anybody has made more mistakes, it is me actually. Because when you first read these kind of statements, you think, oh, that's it, then I don't have to do anything. I am already one with God. But do I know and conduct myself in accordance with that knowledge? Is it an experience to me? So when we look at these Vedic chants, yes, we can learn, we can try to study, we can try to understand. Chant, of course, to reap some short-term benefits, which they definitely will accrue. We have a difficulty. You go for, somebody will say, perform a Rudravishekam, and the difficulty will go away. Will it really go away? Try and do it. You will know. At least the experience of thousands of people who have followed these rituals will attest to the fact that performing some of these Vedic rituals, I'm talking about rituals, simply performing an abhishekam, simply chanting a certain namakam, chamakam and all these things, will it have effect? We have to try and see to know. Those who have done have succeeded and have benefited. So the Vedic here talks in the short term as well as in the long term, because nothing happens overnight. So one thing is to read and understand the Upanishadic knowledge mentally, intellectually, but to realize that Upanishadic knowledge in our lives, where I can experience the oneness of all creation, I need to live my life in accordance with a certain lifestyle that has been ordained in the previous parts of the Veda to intricate detail. So I will live my life in accordance with that dharma. I will try at least. I should try at least. I may fail and I will fail probably. But at least one, if I can hold on to it, if I can try to do with sincerity and fulfill the desires, whatever, again, I said the gama with dharma. Right? So gama with dharma, artha with dharma, and then eventually moksha. So can I have a comfortable life, enjoyable life? If I want to be believing in Vedas and Vedic culture, because that culture is what we are talking about. Yes, Veda or Vedic knowledge or Vedic seer do not tell us to be all monks. It does not tell us to give up everything and be only on gods. What are one of the Vedic benedictions? Nandama Sharadashatam. May you live for 100 years happily. It does not say just live for 100 years. What is the use of living for 100 years if one is bedridden for the last 25 years of their life? There is no point. So Nandama Sharadashatam, Modama Sharadashatam, Srunavama Sharadashatam, Prabravama Sharadashatam. This is the Vedic benediction. What is it telling you? You may live for 100 years so that your ears are fully functional. You live for 100 years so that your eyes are fully functional. So see everything that you can, hear everything that you can, but be happy in all for 100 years. This is Vedic injunction. If it only wanted to talk philosophy, why would they talk about it? So the Vedic seer wants us to be living happy, meaningful, purposeful lives with a comprehensive view of what is this human life that I am in. Because for most people, what is this human life? Okay, I am born, I go to college, I get some job, I earn money, marry, have children, and enjoy. What is this enjoy? All this enjoyment that we talk about is simply satisfying the sense cravings of our senses. It is not possible for everybody to say, look, I don't want to satisfy any craving of my sense. No, not possible. Not for anybody for that matter. So they say, by all means, cater to the needs of your senses, but in a regulated manner, in a dharmic manner, in a proper manner. And who tells me what is proper, what is right? Because that's another thing, right? Today we tell anybody anything, they'll say, who are you to tell me? Or who are you to tell me? Well, if I have lived, who am I to tell anybody for that matter? The Vedic seer has the right to tell anybody, because he or she has lived their life in accordance with these principles and attained that goal, purpose. And they lived happy life, they lived comfortable life, they lived joyful life, they married, they had children. Says Vasishtha had 100 children. So to know about Vedas, they form the foundation of culture because they laid out how to live our lives, and therefore Vedas are the foundation of the culture. And spirituality, of course. That is the topic, right? Vedas are the foundation of Indian culture and spirituality. I would say not Vedas are the foundation of not Indian culture. Vedas are foundation of human culture and human spirituality. Because whoever is willing to subscribe and understand to this kind of thought processes is pretty much into this. And there are many in this, Americans, Europeans, Russians, many across, cutting across all barriers of race, language. And that's exactly one of the greatest contributions of Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba, because he spoke to that core principles. He spoke about those core principles of this Vedic knowledge that appealed, cutting across these racial borders, national borders, and the universality of Vedic knowledge. So today, if we have thousands and thousands of people who are in the United States, who are in all the countries across the world, taking Bhagavan Sri Sathya Sai Baba's name, it is because he caught the core part of this Vedic knowledge and put it in simple terms for everybody to understand. So Veda wants us to live a happy life. Veda wants us to live. So that is why you see what the Vedic mantras again say. What is this dharma we are talking about? Satyam vada, dharmam chara. So live in accordance with this dharma that are laid out. So even if you go to the Ishavasya Upanishad, it says Ishavasya midam sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat. Therefore what? Everything is permeated by God. So what? Tena tyaktena bhunjita magrudha kasya siddhanam. Therefore, do not covet and think that everything is mine, and therefore I alone should enjoy, my wife should enjoy, my children should enjoy. That's not it. Tena tyaktena bhunjita. Understand that this whole thing is being given to us by God's grace. And therefore be grateful for what you receive in this life. Ma grudha kasa siddhanam. Do not covet and say everything I want. No. Who says it? Ishavasya Upanishad says. How to do it? The rest, all the other Vedic knowledge says. Oh, somebody can say, look sir, it is very difficult. I don't know Sanskrit, I don't know Vedic chants. This is great effort that they are doing here to teach these things. But that's good. But if somebody were to say, oh, this is all too difficult and too abstract, because it has to form a foundation for Indian culture, right? So they did not limit it to only this kind of Vedic mantras, because mantras come with a lot of rules as to how to chant, how to learn, how to do this, how not to do this. You cannot say why I have to chant it only this way, because only the person who discovered it will know why you have to chant it that way. However, that same Vedic, the code of conduct, that dharma, if you say I don't know dharma, then that same Vedic dharma that has been embodied in these Vedas has also been put in all these Puranas, because it is sage Vedavyasa. How can we talk about Vedas without taking his name? See how many gurus' names are coming in this discussion. Sage Vedavyasa, who compiled all the Vedas, the same person who said everything is Brahman, Sarvam Khalvidam Brahma, has also written 18 Puranas. And all of the Puranas only talk about this dharma that has been elucidated in this. There are many aspects to it, I am just touching on it. Somebody will say, no sir, I am very difficult, I don't know these Puranas, it's very complicated, I get confused. Not surprised, because those are to be properly understood and be trained under a guru. Okay, don't want to read Puranas. What you can do? Well, you can also, the same thing that has been said in the Vedas has also been said in Ramayanam. Veda Vedye Pure Pumsi Jate Dasardhatmate. This is what it said. Whatever has been talked about in the Vedas, Veda Vedye Pura Pumsi Jate Dasardhatmate, the same Vedic principle has taken birth as Lord Sri Rama. And this Veda Pracheta Sadasi Sakshat Ramayanatmana. This same message of Veda, the Dharma, the code of conduct that has been said in the Vedas, is what is talked about in the Ramayana. So you cannot read Vedas, you cannot read Puranas. Can you read Rama's story, Lord Rama's story? Ramayanam? Because Ramayanam, Veda Samam. Whatever has been said in Ramayana is exactly what is laid out in Vedas. So we can, that is culture. Ramayana is, what is Indian culture without Ramayana? So Ramayana is Indian culture, and the basis for Ramayana is Veda. Ramayanam Veda Samam. Oh, somebody will say, oh, Lord Rama is, Lord Rama is God. So he can do all this dharma. But if we read Ramayana or we listen from somebody as to what Rama, how he lived, then we will actually hear the Vedic dharma being propagated in this. So read Ramayana at least. So understand what is Vedic dharma. How to live our life based on Vedic dharma. We can do that. We say, no sir, that is also very difficult. Then you see, there is another one that is more recent, Mahabharatam, which is also written by sage Vedavyasa. Ramayana, of course, by sage Valmiki. So Mahabharatam. Mahabharatam is called what? Panchama Vedam. It is the fifth Veda it is called. That means what? All the four Vedic dharmas, whatever have been talked about, are embodied in Mahabharata. Can I read Mahabharata? Or at least can I hear about it from some scholarly people? Not the Ramayana and Mahabharata that we see on the TVs. That is not our authentic things. So can I read Mahabharata at least one person's life? How to live a life under difficulties? Who should know more than Pandavas as to how to conduct their lives in a dharmic manner even when the circumstances all around them are against them? Most poor people are against them. Nobody is willing to give them any credit. How to live a life? Dharmic life, not any life. Mahabharata will tell us. Mahabharata. And then what is it that Mahabharata doesn't have? Sage Vedavyasa himself has said that anything that is to be there in this world is in Mahabharata. What is not in Mahabharata is not there anywhere else. This is Sage Vedavyasa's statement. So we want to base our life on the foundation of Vedas. Well, that is the same thing as basing our lives based on the code of conduct lived by Lord Rama or by the dharmic principles that are laid out in Mahabharata. And when we talk about Mahabharata, how can we not talk about Bhagavad Gita, which is part of Mahabharata? And the same principle will be told in Bhagavad Gita also. Adveshta sarva bhutanam. Because Bhagavan Krishna has to talk about his most important message to Arjuna, who was in the middle of the battlefield, who was actually seeking some help and guidance to get rid of his despondency and do something appropriate in the middle of the war. Should they be going on a discourse on all these big things? But that's what Lord Krishna did, because Arjuna was a pretext to reach to all of us. So, Adveshta sarva bhutanam. He did not say, Adveshta, you understand, Adveshta sarva bhutanam means what? Do not have any hatred towards anyone, dislike towards anyone. That is universality, universal thought already right there. Adveshta sarva bhutanam. Why? He did not say Adveshta all human beings. He did not say Adveshta all Brahmins. He did not say Adveshta all Indians. Lord Krishna said Adveshta sarva bhutanam, all beings. That is Vedic thought. That is universality of Vedic seer's vision. That we will look upon everything as one entity. That is Vedic seers. And whatever code of conduct is laid out, whatever cultural Ramayana says, Mahabharata says, Bhagavatam says, any Puranam says, will underline that same simple message. Don't think that you are some isolated entity, that you just came and you do something you want. We are part of one big organic entity that is the God that permeates our lives. Do I want to live according to Vedic injunctions? All this body of knowledge is available. All these compassionate gurus are available who will share their knowledge for free with me. Do I have the willingness to learn from these gurus? One or two, thousands and thousands of gurus. Each one will come, each one will exemplify one particular Vedic injunction maybe. While at times which may seemingly appear at contradiction with each other, but then there are no contradiction in purpose. In methods, maybe, but not in the goal and in the purpose. So any which way we want to sanctify our lives, the Vedic knowledge, instead of remaining just as some abstract ancient body of knowledge, has percolated down to each one of us even today. Why is it relevant to me? Because today, that's the question we can ask. What is the purpose of Vedas? Purpose of Vedas is to set a vision in front of each one of us and say, this is the goal of human life. You want to live your human life to achieve the ultimate goal, then go for it. That's what the Vedas will tell you. And they don't just stop at that. They'll tell you how to go about it if you care to follow. So that is the purpose of Veda, to set a highest ideal in front of us and say, this is what you need to achieve. And then to set a procedure for life and say, this is how, if you live your life this way, then you will reach that goal. So when Vedas tell us, for example, the many popular chants you are all learning, so in Sikshavali it is said at the end, Satyam Vada, why I should speak truth? Because speaking truth gets me into trouble. I can just get away from this trouble by saying untruth. But Veda says no. Satyam Vada. Does Veda say, oh, okay, my friend, you speak truth whenever it is convenient for you, whenever it is possible, you speak, that's all right. It doesn't say like that. It said Satyam Vada, when? Always. So when Veda speaks, he speaks in commands. Do this. Don't do this. Why? Because that is just the core principles. What will happen if I don't speak truth? You want to understand that? You can read Mahabharata. We want to understand what will happen if I don't live according to Dharma. Then we have to see what happens in all these Puranas. So many different people who have deviated from these paths. How did their lives proceed? And again, when I said lives, not as a single life. So I can cheat today. I can lie today. I can behave any which way I want today. Nobody will stop me because I'm an adult. And sometimes I can get away with it because nobody is going to catch me. But what does Veda say? Don't think it's over. Don't think it's over with this. If I cheat, if I lie, if I do things, dharmic things in my life, even when nobody knows around you and everybody may think, oh, Gnana Bhaskar is a great guy. Well, what is Gnana Bhaskar? Only God will know. Whether, forget God, whatever Gnana Bhaskar does, he alone has to come back to bear the consequences of his actions. When that is the principle in which if I am placing my faith in, will I or will I not be automatically conscious of how I am living? Because nobody else is going to come to my rescue except my own, what I choose to do. When we choose to live, first awareness is that. Then that's exactly what the same thing Bhagavad Gita also says. Karmanyava adhikaraste. Because somebody can say then, oh look, you are telling all these things, live according to dharma, etc. But then so many people I have been living my life according to dharma. What did I get? Oh, that person is not doing anything, but he is getting. This person is not doing anything, but she is getting. You can argue. I'm speaking from all the things that I have thought to myself and I have heard from my friends and my gurus and my family and so on. These are natural to get this kind of thoughts. But don't let us for not moment, if we place our faith in this Vedic life, Vedic thought process, It is not over with one time. Do I want to keep coming back? Do I want to keep suffering the consequences of my actions? Or at some point in my life, I say, you know what? I think I better learn my lesson and behave properly to the best possible. Nobody is going to become a saint overnight. But that's where the Vedic knowledge comes into play. So you start living in a particular manner. Satyam vada, dharmam chara. Then what? Swadhyayanma apramaditavyam. Do not disregard your swadhyaya, means that kind of study. Whatever you have studied, keep on reinforcing that again and again. Swadhyayanma pramaditavyam is only philosophy. Matru devo bhava, Pitru devo bhava, Acharya devo bhava. These are Vedic injunctions. Why they should care for your father and your mother and your guru? Why they should I treat them as guru devatas? Because somebody told me, oh, my father and my mother, they are nowhere like devas. That's not our problem. Whether they are behaving like devas or not, we are supposed to treat them like devatas. What a great blessing it is to be able to take care of one's own parents. If I say I am learning all these Vedic chants, but I don't care for my parents, then all our chanting, all our Vedic knowledge, all our product is waste. If you have that singular blessing of taking care of your parents, you must consider yourself the most blessed person. Because Vedas say, treat them as gods. Pitru devo bhava, Acharya devo bhava, Atithi devo bhava. Why Veda should talk about these things? Somebody comes to my house as a guest and goes. Why I should treat him as Atithi devo bhava? What will I get? So these are all these different ways in which we are supposed to live our life in accordance with this Vedic knowledge, so that even if I don't care for that so-called moksha, let us say, or liberation, if I just live my life based on this kind of dharma that has been propagated, if I don't know from Vedas, I can read Ramayana, I can read Mahabharata, I can read Bhagavad Gita, I can go to somebody who knows. If I do that, as I am fulfilling my desires and my life, I am not going to be monk. I'll make money, I'll do all these things, I'll have children, I'll do this, I'll do that. I'll enjoy, I'll relax, maybe watch movies. I'll do all these things, but if I am living basically in that framework that has been enunciated in the Vedas, then all the karmas that are being laid out, because look at the Indian culture, we talk about Indian culture, our entire year is so many different festivals, starting from Makara Sankranti in January. I don't have to tell you what festivals there are. Think about those. Every time there is a cause for celebration, there is a need for worship. Oh, today is Ekadasi, therefore you fast. Oh, today is Pradosham, therefore you do this Abhishekam. Oh, today is Krishnashtami, so you do this Vratam. So today, this is Dasara time, so you live like this. So our life, which is what is Indian culture about, is permeated with this Vedic thought. So you think you are celebrating Janmashtami? We think we are celebrating Dasaras and Deepavalis? No, we are actually living a life that has been laid out by the Vedic principles, because that culture has been born out of that thing. They are not separate from those things. It is not about being religious. It's or just cultural. Behind all these rituals lies the Vedic heart. Because if you ask, when Vedas talk about all these details of rituals, etc., what is the purpose of Veda? We are going back to that question. The purpose of Veda is to help humanity to live a life in accordance with certain code of conduct, so that they realize the true purpose of their life, which is realization of one's self. Even if you say, no, I don't care for this self-realization, I don't care for God, doesn't matter. Just live according to those things. Like I told you, right? If I take a Tylenol, whether I have faith in Tylenol or not, my headache will go. Similarly, if I can follow these injunctions and live my life in accordance with this, whether I want it or not, whether I like it or not, that thing called moksha, the self-realization or oneness with God is inevitable. It's going to happen. Maybe not in this one lifetime, but it will happen. So that is the true purpose of Veda. How to live a life, a successful life, A successful life is a life that is based on not two, just artha and kama, but on four principles of dharma, artha, kama, and moksha. So that is the true purpose of Veda. So when we chant, these chants that we are learning are of course helpful for that same purpose. How is the question? That's a very deep subject. This whole topic is a very deep subject. I'm just touching here and there, and I hope I am making some sense, because I'm only speaking from my understanding this whole thing. I don't have anything written or in front of me. So when we chant Purusha Suktam, when we chant Narayana Suktam, when we chant Durga Suktam, what is happening? We learn, okay, but our mind is also ruminating all this, on the meanings of this. And we are also elevating slowly ourselves into this level of conscious, higher levels of consciousness. Those highest truths will become a reality in our lives only when I have achieved a certain level of purity of heart. I translated it as purity of heart. Chitta Shuddhi is the technical word. Cleansing the chitta of the vasanas and the samskaras that have come to me from lifetimes. I have a tendency to lie where I don't know. My parents tell me, my friends tell me, you fool, why are you lying all the time for a very small thing? But I have a tendency to lie. Why? I don't know. It is there in my heart. Somehow I am prompted to lie. Somebody asks me, how are you? I am not well. I will say, oh, I am fine. Or something like that. Just giving an example. So I have this, we have to, those tendencies that I am not even aware that are part of me are part of me. So this Vedic seer sees through all these things, the tendencies, the likes and dislikes of a jiva, and the Vedic knowledge addresses those things. So the benefits, do you see today? No, maybe, maybe not. Sometimes, if you are lucky, yes. Right? So what we have to do when we look at this Vedic knowledge is to have that bigger picture of what is going on here. Then if we start doing, what will happen in my understanding is, not my understanding, this is not, I can first tell you, nothing that I have said is my own thing. It's not my opinion. If it is Gnana Bhaskar's opinion, you can simply discredit it and then go away. No problem. It is not mine. This is whatever little I have learnt by being there in Prashanthi Nilayam, listening to Bhagawan's discourses, reading various books, listening to different types of gurus. This is what little that I have understood. All karmas, all rituals, all activities are with the goal of Chitta Shuddhi. Chittasya Suddhaye Karmaha. So is karma is in its own, is an end in itself? No, Chittasya Suddhaye Karmaha. A karma that will lead to Chitta Shuddhi will eventually lead to moksha, Gnana, Atma Gnana. But which karma will lead me to Chitta Shuddhi? Those karmas that are laid out by the Vedas, those karmas that are laid out in the Puranas, in the Ramayana, Mahabharata, our amount of literature we have as a consequence of the Vedic knowledge is huge. No other culture has this kind of heritage than us. So we have every reason to be proud. We have every reason to be inspired. We have every reason to be interested. And let us hope and pray. I think my time is over. I should stop now. So let us be inspired, therefore, to pursue this knowledge. Let us be inspired to practice some of it in our own lives. Because Bhagavan Baba says, Acharana leni vidyalu enni nechi, dandi nechina phalanemi gundu sunna, he says. What is the use of learning all these things if you don't put any of this into practice? Zero, he says. So we can talk, but ultimately the litmus test is how much of it are we able to put into practice. Swalpamapyasi dharmasya trayate mahato bhayat is Bhagavad Gita's vakyam. Even if you practice one little bit, swalpamapyasya dharmasya, little bit if you practice, trayato mahato bhayat, the greatest fear will be removed. What is the greatest fear? The greatest fear we have is the fear of death. So that mahato bhayat will go. If that fear itself is going to go, what to speak of small fears? Will I have a job tomorrow? Will I get this promotion tomorrow? Those are small things. And like I conclude quickly by saying that all those smaller benefits will automatically accrue to us if we start placing our faith in the injunctions of these Vedic seers and sages and live our lives as laid out by them. Let us learn these Vedic chants by all means. As we learn, let us also understand the bigger and truer purpose of these Vedas and then sanctify our lives in the process. I pray to Bhagawan to to bless each and every one of you who are making this great effort of going back to the roots of Sanatana Dharma and learning Vedas and putting this into spreading this knowledge across to everybody who is interested. Again, I'm very grateful and very thankful for this great opportunity that has been given to me. I spoke just from my heart. I hope if I served at least in a tiny little bit the intended purpose of this lecture series. Thanks again for this opportunity. Jai Sai Ram.
Om Sri Sai Ram. At the very outset, we're extremely thankful to Brother Professor Dr. Gnana Bhaskar for such a wonderful exposition. He started off in a wonderful way of setting a nice example of a Vedic knowledge or a Vedic way of life. Guru Devo Bhava. He started off with pranams to the Guru and his gratitude. This is verily the Vedic way of life. When he was talking, he was demonstrating it right in the beginning. He recollected and started off paying salutations to his Guru and recalling that. So it's very important for us. So it's a wonderful exposition, and all along the exposition, he was trying to share all that he has learned. He has expounded at great length how Vedas are the foundation for Sanatana Dharma. While I do not want to go over his lecture, but I would like to recall a few very important points. Definitely, I will not be able to cover the way he has done it. He's done a wonderful job. But a few points that to help us recall, it's very important for us to note down these points. So he emphasized how important and how powerful Vedic mantras are, the way they create the vibration, energy, and aura, and how Vedas are apaurishaya. He has emphasized this fact through various ways of explaining this. One very important thing, all the Vedics, the way they perceived it, why they did actually do this. This is for the welfare of the entire humanity. They went into tapas. Whatever they perceived, they did not localize it. They generously shared it. Teaching Vedic life by example. So that's what he has emphasized. You are not going to talk of something that's, in fact, Vedas says be generous. And they have demonstrated it by the way of sharing the wonderful knowledge. When he has very nicely said there is no patenting and this, he has very nicely, very subtly drawn a comparison between what is happening in the current way, how if you discover a small thing and how possessive we become, and whatever great rich Vedic knowledge has imparted. He has very nicely said through this highlighting the importance, how the Vedic seers have gone through penance and shared it generously for the benefit of the entire humanity. And he has very nicely reminded us how scientific we are when we are accepting the theories of molecular biologists, even without seeing molecules, and we forget that we are scientific when such a fundamental truth has been told to us. When we do not understand, we question it, but we are willing to accept the molecular biology without seeing molecules. He has very neatly put it to us where we are going wrong, how we are not able to perceive such fundamental truths because we have blocked our thinking process when it comes to something. He just said, please correct. You are not questioning molecular biology, you have a blind faith, at least have some faith. Then he says, don't just start with the have a faith, follow the life, experience it, then you will realize it. And he has given wonderfully expounded with nice examples how people, after having experienced it and they made some efforts to live Vedic life, and they benefited. So not just listen. If you want to really understand the Veda, importance of Veda, start living the way the Vedic life has been imparted to us, then you will know the power of it. And yes, very clearly he said, the royal road to success for one's life is nothing but it's very clearly given to you right in the Vedas. You don't have to read hundreds and hundreds of literature. Go back to what is already there. You have a royal road in the form of varnashrama dharmas, purusharthas. The way is wonderfully expounded, saying that this is a royal road. You don't need anywhere else. And he has explained And he has very neatly said, Bhagawan has time and again said, Devudu Nadu. He has very neatly expounded that there is one God, and he has been very simply saying it. This has been a fundamental truth, how Bhagavan has explained. He has once again touched upon these points and emphasized it in a very, very simple way, as if he was talking to each one of us. It was a wonderful pleasure to hear. He was talking to each one of us. So he has brought forth the important point that Bhagavan has repeatedly emphasized, how important it is to realize that God is there, because that makes our life lively, it makes our life secure, and he has very clearly reminded us as God is permeating it through his wonderful exposition. When he talked about what is it, the very second injection, he has in a very, very simple language, it referred to the karma theory. If you are aware of the fact that through his mathematical terms of coordinates and origin, keep God as origin and recall this reincarnation theory related to the coordinate axis, so that we can relate, because this is something which we all day-to-day talk. And this definitely it will help us to remember. We should remember, we should have the reference. We should never forget the reference, otherwise we will lose where we are. So keep the reference in focus. It's very nicely emphasized. Thank you, Professor Bhaskar, for bringing forth this point in such a wonderful way. And you have also given the formula there of the way to experience the Vedic life is the only way to experiment and live with it. You have emphasized it very nicely. And you have very neatly said how this Vedic life is not ancient. It has been coming all along. You cannot say the Vedic injunctions are all sometime age back. You related it how it is coming. Again, the Vedic life is redepicted in Ramayana, Mahabharata, Gita, and it goes on to the current age. He said it is not one. It has been all along there. So thank you very much. If you want an answer for how to live a Vedic life, if you are confused, go and read books on the Ramayana and Mahabharata. And he has also cautioned us not just look at some TV serials, but read it, realize it, and practice it. So he has finally, when he ended up, while I cannot cover all that he has said, he has very clearly, very emphasized that practice, what Bhagawan has said. When he said, if you do not practice, everything is a zero, big zero, that he reminded us what Bhagawan has said. All that has been told in the Vedas has been in a very simple language. If you want to understand, go back and refer to the stories of Ramayana, Mahabharata, and go back and look at the commentaries of Gita. Then the best way to understand is to live it. So practice. So thank you very much, Professor Gnana Bhaskar, for such a wonderful exposition and trying to relate the Vedic knowledge in a very simple way and relating it to Swami's teachings, to the various things. So on behalf of all the participants, on behalf of all the committee members of the Sathya Samyukta Shreni, and on behalf of Sathya Seva organization, we sincerely thank you. We pray to Bhagawan to bless you and your family immensely. And we are extremely thankful for such a wonderful exposition. Sai Ram.
Om Jai Jagadish Hare Swami Sathya Sai Hare Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Bhakta Jana Samrakshaka Pati Maheshwara Om Jai Jagadish Hare Shashivadana Shrikara Sarva Pranapati Swami Sarva Pranapati Ashrita Kalpalatika Ashrita Kalpalatika Apatandhava Om Jai Jagadish Hare Mata Pita Guru Daivamu Mariyantayu Nive Swami Mariyantayu Nive Nada Brahma Jagannatha Nada Brahma Jagannatha Nagena Shayana Om Jai Jagadish Hare Omkara Rupa Ojasvi Ho Sai Mahadeva Sathya Sai Mahadeva Mangala Harati Anduko Mangala Harati Anduko Mandala Giridhari Om Jai Jagadish Hare Narayana सत्यनारायण नारायण 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 सत्यनारायण नारायण सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण सत्यनारायण नारायण 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 सत्यनारायण नारायण सत्यनारायण नारायण ओम जय सद्गुरुदेवा नारायण नारायण सत्यनारायण नारायण 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 सत्यनारायण नारायण सत्यनारायण नारायण जय सद्गुरुदेवा शांति 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 समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्त लोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु शांति 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 जय बोलो भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय।